Hi everyone, and welcome to my brand new podcast, All or Nothing with Anita Nicole. I'm so excited to share this journey with you as I introduce you to people who share some of their lifelong stories. I hope their stories inspire you and ultimately help you to elevate your life. This has been a lifelong passion of mine, so I really hope you enjoy this podcast. I look forward to the feedback, and if you have any questions or comments, please do share. Now it's time for us to elevate together. Hi, Shelly, and
Hi.
welcome to the All or Nothing podcast with Anita Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being my guest today. So, first question. For the people out there that don't know you just yet, can you tell us a bit more about who you are, what you do, your background, and why you decided to move to London?
Great. So, my name is Shelly-Ann Gajadhar, and I am an alpha female black unicorn woman finding her way and her purpose, and just an all-round go-getter is what I would say. I'm a Caribbean woman, so I was born and raised in Trinidad and Tobago. I was a criminal prosecutor there for 4 years, living the life, doing exceptionally well in the field, the legal field. And then things happening in my life where I decided to make the big choice of no longer doing law and redefining who I was as a professional and as a person. And that saw me taking a leap of faith and moving to Edinburgh at first to pursue a master's in international business. Because I was leaving the law profession, I needed to find a new voice, find a new space, and I chose business. And then after a very successful stint in Edinburgh, after 2 years, I realized I was a nerd. I realized that I was a nerd. I realized that I loved research. I realized that that was my strength and my calling. And I then decided to pursue my doctorate, which is what I'm now doing at King's College London, and I teach here as well.
Amazing
Yes.
story. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So, what did you find trickiest about navigating your way around a country you weren't born in? And what advice would you give for always holding your own in spaces that may not always be so receptive?
Right. I think the first thing is understanding that when you are deciding to leave any place that is a comfort zone for you, there will be challenges in terms of adapting and being flexible, making friends, finding your voice and your footing. So that's the first thing to be aware of, acknowledging that it's going to be a challenge. I find that we think that, okay, well, once we've boarded the flight, everything is easy. And actually, there's a whole can of worms that can crop up if it is you don't balance the expectations.
Yeah.
So for me, I came to accept that, and I knew that it would be a difficult time in terms of making genuine and meaningful connections with people because it's a big city. It moves very quickly, it's dynamic, and it's not a little Caribbean island, right? So for me, I spent a lot of time just getting to know people and understanding the city, really feeling the city. Now, I'm not talking about going on, all of these tourist destinations and that sort of thing. No, I went into the Brixton, I went into the Lewishams, I went to Croydon. I went to central London because I wanted to feel the spirit of London. I wanted to feel, what does this city really offer and what is it about. I didn't want to know what magazines said it was about. I wanted to feel it and feel it through the eyes of the locals. And the culture. So for me, that's what I did. I sat on buses, I rode tubes, I rode trains, and I just felt the city. So that's the first thing that I would say. And the second thing with regards to settling in is always finding a space that reminds you of home in some way. So for me, I found Brixton to remind me a lot of home. So I would sometimes go there to the market or just take a walk through because it just reminds me of where I came from and remind me of home. So that is what helped me. And in terms of challenges, one of the challenges that I face and continue to face in Britain is the understanding of race relations, which is not publicized, and it's a topic that is usually swept under the carpet in the British narrative. Now, coming from the Caribbean islands, we have been taught about Britain, but we haven't been taught about Britain from its own political narrative and its own race agenda.
Wow.
So coming here and seeing it and experiencing it is very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Particularly as a Black Caribbean woman navigating her way in a predominantly white institution.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge for me because I think I came here very naive around that. I didn't think that my color mattered. And in coming into an institution that is predominantly white and a system that is very race motivated, there were things that I saw and situations that challenged me that allowed me to understand that it is a very deeply embedded and institutionalized system around race.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think that was the biggest and continues to be a challenge for me.
Yeah.
While in London.
You seem to be doing a great job managing it.
Yes, I think I am actually.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to owning your space.
Yeah.
And owning your voice. No one gave me a silver spoon or a golden ticket to this place.
Yeah.
I worked for that, you know, and I have no apologies in shouting about my merit and shouting about what I do well, because another person of a different color doesn't have a problem talking about what they do well. So why do we constantly ostracize ourselves?
Yeah.
I say no. And I'm not going to be part of that time immemorial narrative. I think it's time for us as Black women and young women to challenge the narrative and challenge it diplomatically and challenge it on our merit and on the good work that we do. We must be seen, and if you're not going to see us, you're going to hear us. Yeah.
I love that. All that energy. Wow. To date, what do you think has been your biggest failure, and how did you learn from it and apply those lessons moving forward?
Wow. Biggest failure. I actually, that's so interesting. Now, if you asked me that probably 4 years ago, I would have had an answer for you, I'm sure. But, when we talk about failures and me reflecting on that word, I don't identify with the word.
Wow.
I don't identify with the word failure. I identify with disappointment. I identify with sadness. I identify with despondency. But I think failure is such a deep word because it transcends into you almost thinking that you weren't good enough.
Wow.
And I see myself as good enough all the time, every day, all day.
I love that perspective.
Yeah, I see myself as always good enough. So were there moments that I was disappointed? Yes. Were there moments I was sad? Absolutely. But I don't think that there were moments that I felt that I was a failure or that I experienced failure. Maybe there are instances where I didn't get things my way.
Yeah.
But in looking back on those instances, I know why I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And thank God I didn't get it actually.
Better.
It always leads you to something better, and it's stepping stones. So, there's power in the definition of words.
Yeah.
And we must ascribe not what the Cambridge Dictionary says a meaning of a word means, but we should also be encouraged and inspired enough to create definitions that mean something to us.
Yeah.
Because we must watch what we say about ourselves, and we must watch the words that we use as well. So for me, failure doesn't exist.
I love that. Yeah. And I'm going to also shift my perspective and take that word out of my vocab too.
Excellent.
That's incredible. So as a mentor, with your first event being Manifest 2020,
yes,
what made you decide to step out and host your mentorship on such a large scale? And congrats for selling it out, by the way.
Thank you so much. So home is very dear to me, Trinidad and Tobago. As many know, the Caribbean islands is going through a period of an economic downturn, and we are faced with high levels of crime. It's something that the international audience may not know of because of the way that we portray ourselves in magazines and in being a tourist destination. But so from the social standpoint and at the grassroots level, we are going through a tough time. There is a lack of opportunity, business opportunities. There is a lack of funding for our youth and their education. And there is not enough young leaders in our societies. And people that leave the Caribbean islands to do well tend not to come back home. So for me, I did not want to be another statistic that was plucked from home and serving a developed country when my country is crying out for somebody like me. And I see the crying out with my following and the way that they engage with me, the things that they share with me, the fact that they are deeply inspired by my own strides and my own courage. And I feel a level of social responsibility to speak to that, at a larger scale. So when God says do something, you do it, right? And I cannot remove God from the equation of what I have been doing in the last 2 years, which is influencing and inspiring people. So when I decided to go home for Christmas, I always make contribution, social contribution, an aspect of my time home in any way. And I felt a burning desire to serve in greater capacity. And I felt that the only way I could do that is really through an event. And I call it Manifest 2020 because I want people to understand that sometimes our prison is our mind. We trap ourselves and we imprison ourselves. So Manifest 2020 is to break the cycle of limiting beliefs and encourage people to dream in a society that tells you shouldn't dream. So that was the reasoning behind Manifest 2020. And it is to shift people's energetic field, to get them to see that it is possible through me, because my life is a testimony of it, because I was once there. And it's also to dedicate a day to celebrate people and their strengths. Each attendee will be celebrated on that day. That is why I chose a premium space like Hilton, because they deserve to be in a premium space. They deserve to feel what it feels like to sit in a room with people who are hungry just as they are for success and who choose themselves, and for them to see the possibility, to see that, wow, she did this and maybe I could do this too. Wow, I'm in a space where possibilities are endless. And if it's once a year that they feel that way, what an honor it is for me to have served them in that way. So
agree.
that is the purpose and intention behind Manifest 2020.
That sounds magical. It's
Thank
so
you.
powerful, and it's true. When you see somebody that looks like you, it just gives you a different belief of, I can do it too. She looks like me. We're from the same place. We look the same. She can be up there. I can be up there too.
Yes, and that's so important.
So powerful.
Yeah.
So, what does self-love mean and look like to you, Shelley? And what tips would you give for someone trying to practice their own self-love?
Right. Self-love feels like freedom. It feels like freedom. It feels like the right hand of God. It feels like pure divinity and bliss. It is joy. For me, I went through a period of developing self-love, and self-love doesn't happen overnight because you are overcoming self-hatred. And self-hatred is something that is deeply enshrined into our relations with our friends through comparison, or it could be through our comparison when we use social media, or it could be that we don't feel a sense of belonging. So we start to hate who we are, the DNA of who we are, the identity of who we are. It's a very deep thing. So for me, when I was developing self love, I knew that there were things about myself that I didn't like, and I had to learn to love because it wasn't going anywhere. It just simply was not going to go anywhere. And the things that I may have been ostracized for, being too alpha as a woman, or being too intellectual, or being too much of a leader, those were my gifts.
Yeah.
The things that people hated me for are the things that rose me up. And I had to come to terms with that, and I had to love that. So it really is about quietening the mind and removing the opinions of people, and really getting to the core of what is it that makes you unique, because the things that we hate about ourselves are sometimes the things that will raise us up. So quiet the mind, figure out what is it that inspires you and brings strength to you and motivates you, and what brings you joy, and then cultivate that. So I'll give you an example. For me, I love dancing. I love dancing. I'm not a professional dancer, but I have such a playful spirit.
See you on Instagram living your best life.
I'm always dancing. And, as a professional woman, sometimes people think that you shouldn't have this playful side about you. And I hid that for a long time because I was a criminal prosecutor.
Yeah.
And to be taken seriously, you can't be playful. And when I left the profession, my childlike side wanted to be seen. She wanted to play. And I said, okay, let's play. Let's play. Put on the music and we play. And I say it in the third person because it is a separation of yourself and your soul. We are just vessels. We are just carrying an agenda and a purpose. But deep inside, there is another side of us. And I was ready to let the inner Shelly come to the stage. So now I dance and I allow myself to be free. And in cultivating self-love, have a spirit of allowance.
Yeah.
Allow yourself and be comfortable with what you find, because we we get judged so often that we don't realize that after a while we also sit on the panel of judges all of a sudden, and we are judging ourselves too. And it's like, but how did I become a judge of my own self?
Yeah.
And the biggest judge and the biggest critic. And it's because you fed into what people were doing to you for so long. And then you became that as well. So in finding yourself and in finding love, self-love, have moments to just yourself, to be in your spirit and in your presence, and to allow yourself to just be. Unapologetically, unreservedly, non-judgmentally, without an audience, without eyes, without prying eyes, just as we are in this room, sit in a room by yourself and just be.
Yeah.
If you want to color, if you want to play music loudly, if you want to twerk, whatever you want to do, just allow.
Yeah.
And get into the habit of that.
Yeah. To allow your inner 7-year-old child to stay alive.
Yes.
And it's true, I feel like as adults, a lot of them let their fun, free-spirited youthfulness go.
Yes.
And it's just a lot about work and, the day-by-day restricting, but feel free and feel everything deeply.
Deeply.
It's very important.
Yes, I agree.
Important. So, as a young female myself, this is so funny, I was personally drawn to you for being so free-spirited, absolutely beautiful, and being an ultimate boss babe.
Right.
Your fashion is on point, and you really just exude self-confidence. How do you deal with shining so brightly and not letting anyone's perception of you make you dim your light?
Right. Now, That's interesting because in shining your light, you are light because you exist in darkness, right? That's the first thing. So, light will always have its challenges, just as darkness does.
Yeah.
So, I don't expect to be shining brightly and expect to be received wholeheartedly by everyone. It's the same thing with the sun, right? So, when we have very sunny days, some people are like, oh my gosh, it's too hot.
Yeah.
And then there are some people who would just bask in it. So, I know that I may not be a cup of tea for everybody, but I know that I'm the best cup of tea for myself. And because I know I am the best cup of tea for myself, and I enjoy this tea and I savor this tea, other people want to try it as well.
Yeah.
That's just really what it comes down to, that you must love and believe in yourself first, and then people will come on board after. So, dimming my light was never an option. Why? Because I dimmed my light for too long before. My light was always dim before finding my truth and myself. And my light was really dimmed around the time when I was prosecuting, because again, there is a identity and a perception that the public and society has of you. And as a young, Black, beautiful woman, I had to stay within the confines of that to be taken seriously and to be taken professionally. So it came a point where I was tired of dimming my light.
Yeah.
You know, I realized that I wasn't serving anybody by doing that. I wasn't serving myself, and I wasn't serving the many lives that I wanted to impact. So, with dimming your light, you will be tempted at times to reach for the switch and to dim the light. And I say to you, in instances like that, don't. Understand that it's the environment that you're in and it is not you. You need an environment that will allow you to shine. You know, and sometimes we know we have a bright light, but we stay in a dark room all of the time. And we don't go out and we see different environments. And we encourage this temptation of wanting to dim our light all the time because we're afraid to jump out or to leap into a new environment and to try something new. So don't victimize yourself. Don't ever victimize yourself. Don't ever make people make you feel like you are the problem. You're not the problem. You're just unique and you're beautiful and you have gifts. And you shouldn't be ostracized for that. So with that said, go into environments that want your light. Find that. Go where the sun shines.
Yeah.
You know, and if you are somebody that has a bright light and you're stuck in a dark hole, shine your way out of that. That's what I'd say.